In this life, the measure of a man is his ability to take flack and allow it to roll off his shoulders or rolled off his back. Now, you can't be a man and go through life expecting that everything is going to be smooth. Just doesn't work like that. Likewise, the measure of an institution is the ability to be challenged and ask pertinent questions. Now, asking pertinent questions may be uncomfortable for many and for many institutions. But it doesn't mean that you get to personally attack the people who are asking the pertinent questions when it is actually their right to do so. As a matter of fact, it's an obligation, especially for people who hold public offices, to be questioned, for their actions to be questioned. So there's an old saying, if you can't take the heat, get the heck out of the kitchen. There's a lot of cooking taking place, and there's going to be a lot of heat. What is interesting, though, that there are many who can give the most flack, but when it comes to them, and you counterattack or you counterpunch, they run crying in a little corner like some soy boys. Well, I've actually seen that happen recently. So you have what you call, and it's so obvious, I mean, they're not shy about it, a bunch of hitters, a bunch of political hitters for the current administration. And laying in the cut, they're on standby, waiting for an ambush if you ask a question of their administration. So these political hitters, some of these people are not even reasonable or rational, but they're the ones who are first to attack you when you say something. So I saw something that I thought was actually just downright despicable. So I saw a gentleman who has a program, and I'm starting to believe that that program might be on its way out, or it might be losing support, because the gentleman doesn't even look motivated when he's actually doing his podcast or whatever you call it now these days. He doesn't look motivated. He looks, like depressively down when he's doing it. And again, I know he's probably distracted by all the other things that he's doing. You know what I'm saying? So that might be taking a load or taking a weight on him. So I guess to distract from his personal turmoils, he has decided, despicably, to attack Jenny Simon. Now, first and foremost, it's just not cool for a guy to be attacking a girl. On top of that, especially if the girl is just asking pertinent question. So the guy goes along, attacks the young lady, and uses some just downright dishonorable and disrespectful words. And there's some words that he decided to call. You can look at the vid for yourself. And I'm not even going to repeat it because it's not worthy of that sort of attention. But a gentleman starts off his podcast by saying that what Miss Jenny Simon is saying is not credible. And it's not worthy of response. But that in itself is contradictory. Because if you say what you say is not, credible, it's not worthy of response, the question is, why are you now responding? You should just let it go. Then he tries to point at some sort of motivation for responding or going after the young lady because she said something about his business in the inception of his business. Interestingly enough, what the young woman said, if she said it, is nothing new. It's something that has been said in the past. It's still being said about whatever machines that the gentleman was bringing in. Now in New York, in Europe, many people are talking about the possibility of these particular machines having problems and catching a fire. That is like international news. It's all over the place. We see tons of them happening in New York. Now, the woman just expressed a concern of the possibility of that happening, which I've been told that it is a concern that other people have expressed when the gentleman decided to embark on such a business involving those machines. So that might be part of his motivation for literally verbally attacking the woman. So it just tells me, it more and more definitively tells me that what this woman is saying is probably truthful, because based on the response she's getting from these people, says to me, oh boy, she's speaking some truth. So I see through what's happening here. They can't go after her personally, politically. It would look too messy. So what they do, it's quite obvious, they're trying to get their political hitters on these podcasts to go after her. And if you've had the time to take a look at the young woman's podcast, you will see that her arguments are very reasonable, rational, and mainly evidence-based with limited opinions. So I could understand why these people might be upset in the administration. But it's contradictory. You are the same people when you were on the other side of the aisle would give Keith Mitchell the most flack. I mean, you would say some of the most nasty, derogatory things about him and his administration. Now that you're in the kitchen, you can't take the heat. You can't take a little bit of flack. That you have to suck. You have to literally suck your political podcast hitters against a girl. But I understand some of these men may not have grown up in an environment that cultivates respect for themselves and respect for women. So if the gentleman is frustrated and his business is not doing as well as he thought it would, because, hey, business is hard. So when you think that you can just spread your wings as far as you can in such a short space of time, then my friend, that may be a problem, especially where there's competition and limited markets. But one has to learn to deal with things like that. And I believe also the gentleman sees the writing on the wall, sees that his administration is not performing as best as it should or as anticipated, and the honeymoon is pretty much over. He also understands that, hey, this thing has a lifetime. So when you need to vent or you're a little frustrated, there are other ways of doing it. And funny enough, the gentleman always have some inspiring speech and positive words and things you should and shouldn't do to uplift yourself, but then you descend into this derogatory, despicable act of attacking a lady because she's asking pertinent question. What sort of man are you? You should literally be ashamed of yourself, especially for someone who has been doing this for such a long time. I mean, I don't mind if you have disagreements and you want to rebut what the lady says based on arguments, based on facts, but you don't get into, it's not even cool to get into personally attacking the woman. Are you kidding me? It seems to be the modus operandi of you guys. Anytime someone challenges you guys with facts, with reason, with logic, and proper argument, you descend into gutterness. I don't know, man. I don't know. If I was these guys, I would never even think of possibly hiring you guys to do anything or to be some sort of political hitters. Because you embarrassed your administration. It's like, the video I made previously about this guy trying to explain what the prime minister was saying and just totally dropped the ball in it. What's going on with you guys, man? Then, again, I know what's happening. There's a lot of frustration. And again, you guys within yourselves are not happy with yourselves and with the administration. Because I saw another one and he posted on his, he was talking about all the positive things. He's like, oh, let's be positive. There's too many negative things being said about the current administration. So he decided to interview a bunch of vendors in the spice market in Grand Beach or something like that, as a way of showing how good the current administration is doing, And he thought that the vendors would have said, yeah, tourism has markedly increased. Yeah, tourism is up. But obviously the people he interviewed said, oh yeah, well, you know how this business is, it's ups and downs, and stuff like that. But my question is the current administration responsible for the spice market? Whose idea and whose administration under which the spice market was built? So, I mean, it's like pulling at straws, man. It's like an act of desperation to try to show some sort of positive thing that the current administration is doing. Okay, so you see what's happening, and I think the flack is working. I think the questioning is working. I think the pressure is working because you see them scurrying all over the place to do little pieces of project here and there. I see recently they're doing something in Old Trafford, which I personally love because I have fond memories of playing much soccer and then fighting after the soccer in Old Trafford. It was an every evening thing. So I like that. And you see them cutting a little road here and, this is, but again, guys, this is not a major infrastructure project. This is just natural, expected maintenance of your country. But another reason, let's get back to the whole drone saga. And there's another reason I think that the gentleman is pissed. Now, I guess with the whole drone show, where they tried to war Grenadians with the drone show, I guess what they were trying to do, I think they had a different motivation in terms of explaining what money was spent on the drone. Because the thing about it, I guess Grenadians were so wowed by the whole drone affair, and they might think, oh my God, this is spectacular. This might be pretty expensive. So it's quite possible that in order to hide overall expenses and to hide expenses, they could say, oh, well, boss, this is a very expensive venture. And they wouldn't tell you exactly how much it costs. Because that way you can shift money to other places. And then you can say, this drone affair was so expensive. But then when it got exposed, it's like, oh my God, it became embarrassing. How do we deal with this? And that is why you see the gentleman going so viciously after Jenny Simon. He is angry that she actually exposed the cost of the drones. By now, the average person should realize, these things are like 10 cents a piece or something like that. The Chinese are like churning this out in mass production. So we should have known that this thing could not have been expensive. Just by logic and reason, you would have known that this could definitely not be expensive. These are things that little kids do now these days. But it was to bamboozle and create that wow factor in the minds of Grenadians to distract them from what's really going on. So they're not going to ask questions like, oh, wow, this was so great. We don't need to ask questions. Why should we ask questions about how the money was spent? Why should we ask questions about how 20 million was spent? Why should we ask those questions? You know what would be a real major infrastructure project? How about rehabilitating the drainage system in Grenada? How about that? Then you'll get some kudos for doing it. As a matter of fact, it's alleged that there was money for a project of that nature. I think it was, don't quote me on that, but I think it was through the British government or something like that. And then things got hard during COVID, and they sort of realized that the money was not being used, and they wanted to take it back and stuff like that. And then there was some sort of agreement that no, they was not going to take it back, and there's some sort of money available for NOASA and stuff like that. But how about that? How about mobilizing the technical resource? And I believe you have it in Grenada. And even if you don't have it in Grenada, you can source it regionally or even internationally. It's a small world now these days. And trying to revamp the drainage system in Grenada so that when you have all this rainfall, you don't have all this massive flooding. Two of the most destructive things in this world, okay, is water and fire. Okay? So you might feel like, it's flooding, it's just a little bit of water in the roads. But you don't understand. These things over a period of time could have impacts on the buildings and the buildings' foundations. So in the long term, they could, if it continues to flood like that in these low-lying areas, in the town of St. George, in Grenville, in Grand Anse, you could have serious impacts. So how about that? How about embarking on a massive infrastructural rehabilitation of the drainage system? Now, if you do that, then you can say, oh boy, we're doing something. But this little cut in the road, running around with a little excavator, or throwing a little BRC on the ground and a little bit of concrete, or say, oh, I'm building a toilet in Old Trafford, which I love. Don't get me wrong. It's probably needed. But you don't get to tap yourselves on the back and say, whoa, like you built some massive infrastructure or something like that. You don't get to do that. A freaking carpenter and a mason could install a toilet. Okay? Again, don't get me wrong. I'm happy you're doing it and should be done. But don't run up and down and fire fireworks and get a bunch of photo ops and say, look, boots on the ground. Look what we're doing. Please. By now, Grenadian people are not impressed by stuff like that. They're not impressed by these little things. As I said, I could get a carpenter and a mason to build a goddamn restroom. And don't talk about money. And say, oh boy, where we gonna get the money? Don't talk about money. Because y'all been boasting, you're making billions from CBI, which I thought it should be used for infrastructural projects. Y'all boasting about all the other money you're getting, plus all this charitable donations and all this insurance money coming in from the hurricane stuff. And is alleged about the 500 million for Nawasa and the infrastructure, the pipe infrastructure and stuff like that from the British. And they were pissed because nobody was acting upon it. How about that? How about tapping into some of that? And nobody's expecting you to just do everything all at the same time. But how about focusing on the areas that really need help? How about focusing in the tongue of St. George? I mean, I was having a good time in the tongue of St. George, but I realized there's such a stench. There's such a stench, and it's coming from the sewer. It's probably not, cleared or something like that. And that's next a place that's serving food right next to KFC. Come on, man. This is your capital city. Are you kidding? So the bottom line is, let's get back to this gentleman. This is a gentleman. He's talking about the possibility of, the woman was trying to sabotage his business by what she said or what she inquired about. Guess what? Talking about sabotage? This is a gentleman that is known, that goes after you, even for educational purposes, which that you have a right to use other people's video. I don't even care if people using my video. You know what I'm saying? For educational purposes, or to respond, that is a gentleman that would actually try to get you a strike on YouTube. That's how this gentleman is. That's how devious this gentleman is. Okay? Even if you use a clip in his video, okay, he will try to get you a strike. And here he is talking about, she tried to sabotage my business. Yeah, like you're such a saint. You're such a saint. You're looking for sympathy. She tried to sabotage my business. Wow. You're attributing a lot of power to that woman. So, when we riding along through this life, we have to be careful what we say and how we treat people. Don't allow yourselves to get caught up in political back and forths with individuals. Politicians will always survive. They'll always do their thing. But you, my friend, have to deal with your own people. So the bottom line is this, bro. You got to feel comfortable in your skin. You got to wear pink like me and make pink look good. But more importantly, stay from political hit jobs. Make your bread. I understand. Make your money. Stick with all the great things you're doing for Grenada in terms of, using your platforms and promoting Grenada and the shows that you have. That's a good genre. But the political hit job, that is not your genre. And that is not cool. Take a little advice from your own words. It's going to distract you from getting the bag. You should have known. You should have been able to predict this, that this is not going to be cool. Because here it is, you have a woman who's usually very respectful, cordial. And when she says something, she has facts to back it up. She does her research. So you don't get to attack someone like that and expect that everybody's going to, applaud you for that. Come on, you're not going to get kudos for that, bro. Okay, on that note, enough said. You got my number, bro. If you want to talk about it a little more, give me a call. Let's talk about it.